Hello and welcome to Beyond the Mirror podcast. Today I have a very special guest all the way from Barcelona, a marketing consulting for company Plim, John Pascal. Welcome and thank you very much for making all this journey for Beyond the Mirror. It's really humbling. Would you please tell us a little bit about your background, because you are a marketing guru. I came and worked with you through different projects, and your vision is just beyond present. I think it's just the future of marketing. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. But can you please tell us about your background and what inspired you to do your marketing career?
Thank you. Well, I studied marketing. I went to business school back in Belgium, where I'm from. I started my career at L'Oreal in beauty because I just always kind of liked the industry. And then a few years later, I fell into aesthetics and aesthetic medicine. So taking beauty for me to another level, no disrespect to the cosmetic, but to efficacy and science and the clinical results. Work with, I'd say, maybe not naming one of the biggest player in the industry, then work with a starting players a few years ago. And just last year started in the same industry, but going beyond products, working for Plim, which is would be categorized as financial services. Like I said, I started in this beauty industry because I just find it very fascinating, empowering. It has pros and cons. You need to find the balance. At the end of the day, we do so much more than beauty, really. But that's the word that conveys more the way people see what we do, I think.
Well, I would add, I think in aesthetic, we change people's life.
Absolutely.
Because maybe it comes from their medical background. Well, I'm a dentist. I don't save life in first place. But I believe we're changing lives of people in a very positive way when we're doing treatment correctly. And I think being a part of that maybe, gives you this positive impact and positive energy. So absolutely.
100%. And sometimes what I find, because I had a brief time working in cardiac surgery between working in aesthetics. And sometimes in this industry, we try to justify ourselves going, but here's oncology, here's cardiology. I think we don't have to rank specialties. We're helping people for different aspects of their life when they need us or when they, are forced to need us. I think, aesthetic medicine is helping people. I say changing lives because how, we look, how we feel about how we look impacts us a lot. I don't have to convince you of that or anybody,
absolutely.
I'm sure.
Restoring confidence, making a positive change in their future, and that is really what is Beyond the Mirror project and movement is, exploring this journey, motivation and impact of the treatment.
100%.
So we have an endless number of examples of how positive those treatments can be for people's life. But I would like to bring our conversation back to Plim. And what I would say, it's very unusual for financial company who offer finance to be so open, transparent, and be happy to talk about it on the podcast where our patient can listen, practitioners. So can you please tell me what is the real difference between Plim and other financial companies?
The way I see it is quite simple on one hand is Plim is there, understand aesthetics. I think that rules out a lot of the banks, a lot of the credit cards that don't really understand, and is really there to empower patients, empower practitioners, empower the delivery of holistic treatment plans. If you think strictly from the financial point of view, a credit card is just gonna give you a line of credit, tell you this is what happens. If you don't pay back within 30 days, come up interest, right? Which can be quite scary. If you think of a personal loan, it requires you going to the bank, explaining that you want treatment. Sometimes it's quite personal. Where's the sensitivity there? So I think Plim has found this, the aesthetic industry where we can help patients to support them through their plan, and we can also help practitioners through the idea of. I believe from all these years of experience that holistic plans are often what people need. It's not just please give me 1 ml of filler, please give me this. there's just so many things that we can do to help really what the patient needs, not forcing a necessary treatment, but really supporting them with that. And Plim is there to make the journey easier. If the treatment plan is going to be, 4 or 5 sessions, we know that there's going to be a better loyalty from the patient if from upfront they say, okay, I'm committing and I know that I have to come back to all these appointments. But you don't want to be charging them the entire amount upfront. That might be a lot for people. So by putting it on Plim, it's all sorted upfront, and then the patient and yourself on the following appointment can really just focus on getting the treatment, getting results, and delivering that. I think that if you don't know the aesthetic industry and you're purely finance, you have no idea what's happening in the clinics.
To be honest with you, you're very right with that, because we have had experience. To be honest with you, I can't recall the name of the company, but we used to offer finance previously, and we stopped because it was very inconvenient, problematic, and I would say even stressful for the patient and us. And our experience with Plim so far has been absolutely smooth, incredible, easy.
I'm glad.
I think it's very easy for patient to apply, so we have had fantastic feedback, because if it is something very complicated, it's also these steps that can put patient off from having a treatment in our clinic.
Absolutely.
And from my point of view as a clinician, I think it removes this uncomfortable conversation, which often we need to have in the clinic. It's about negotiating finance, offering different options, sometimes discount, trying to spread the cost of the treatment. And sometimes things can get way too complicated, and most aesthetic practitioners with medical backgrounds, they come from NHS positions where they have never needed to deal with financial part. And being educator in the industry, sometimes I hear that practitioners say, I feel so uncomfortable, I forgot to charge the patient, which is a very nice and kind thing to do, but at the end of the day, you need to support your life and it is your business. So I think Plim is a very easy system to implement for both clinic and patient.
I'm glad to hear that.
With regards to patient journey, I don't believe in one quick fix. It just simply doesn't exist in aesthetic. So
it would be great if it was the case.
Maybe, who knows what the future will bring, but it's about processes and a journey. And when the quick fix happened, and when when the result have happened and you're happy, it would never last forever, because aging process and aging of the skin still taking place. So you need to maintain that.
And I think, when you talk about holistic treatment plans, and that's really what, Plim is there to support. It also think of, that's what differentiate one practitioner from another one. Because at the end of the day, we also know there's a market of people sitting at home and thinking, I think I need 2 ml filler, and I'm going to figure out where I can get it for, maybe the best price, or where I can get the quicker appointment. But the reality is there's just so much more to the anatomy, the face, the psychology of someone. And what I think, personally, as a marketing person, but also, working for Plim, is being able to empower the practitioner and the patient to get into a position where I'm your patient, I've built so much trust in you, what you give me is really bespoke because you understand me anatomically, we've spoken, you understand who I am as a person, and I wouldn't think for a second to go see someone else because I know you're the practitioner for me. And I think that this is much harder to develop if all you do is, well, I'm going to give you, toxin 3 times a year, go. At some point, what you learn in marketing as well, like the biggest barriers, there's not campaign, it's just like the reality of life. If all you do is treat someone, maybe like I say, toxin 3 times a year, and that's all it is very transactional. One day, all it takes is a clinic that opens a bit closer, that has maybe a later opening hour, and they'll just go, oh, I know the toxin I get. If they're educated, they even know the brand, and they'll just go and they'll swap. But the minute you can have had this holistic approach, as you say, it doesn't matter what the treatment modalities are, but it's just really going, they trust you, they know that you have their best benefit at heart. It's not about selling, it's just about really understanding what they want. you deliver something that I think we'd call it a protocol, but it's effectively more than a protocol. You deliver something that they can't think, oh, this clinic has better opening hours, I'm going to go there. No, they can't do what you've built, but it's something that you need to be able to build. And often, yeah, if it's a treatment plan, it's maybe more expensive and it requires an approach, but it will deliver, it will build on results, and results will deliver the loyalty.
I so much agree with you. What you're saying, it makes so much sense and resonates with my philosophy. But you said word protocol, and I would say the protocol is a little bit harsh word as itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't believe in protocols, because you need to have a processes, but protocols, they simply don't work for patient, because what we do have, often we see that protocols work in big systems like NHS. They have protocols, but what they don't have is a diversified clinical thinking and practice. And I so much agree with you that results come from holistic approach, and that can't happen that one protocol fits all patient. You collect their history, their lifestyles, their nutrition, their exercise, their skincare regime at home, and we're talking about life transformation results, isn't it? That is what's beyond the mirror. It's not like 3 areas of Botox. It's what actually you look in the mirror and you think, wow, that is me, but so much fresher, better, confident. I'm ready to the new chapter in my life. And this only can happen when we address all the layers of the skin, which is 7 layers, when we address a cellular function, which is supporting our body holistically. And sometimes it's not necessary that we want to sell something to the patient. It must be a very good structural advice to their lifestyle changes, to 100%. Their nutrition, that will work very well with treatments that we're offering in clinic. And I think that is what brings real value. 3 areas of Botox today doesn't bring a value for you in 10 years time, because you were right, another clinic can open around the corner and then you compete on a price. Absolutely. When in reality shouldn't be a competition on price. There should be competition on expertise
and results.
And I think competition is healthy, but also it's very important that in profession we're working together along the best results and journey to the patient in terms of following the standards, following the holistic approach, and putting patient interest before everything else.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Yes.
JP, if you don't mind, I prefer the shorter version of your name. Would you mind to please tell us a little bit more of the process of Plim? So, for example, if patient want to use Plim and they're thinking about aesthetic treatment and they think, I really like recommendation of this doctor, but I don't want or can't pay this whole amount, I want some finance. So can patient use Plim directly with you, or does it need to be done through the clinic? Can patient use your platform, or do the clinic need to register with Plim and then they can offer this platform to their patients?
Absolutely. So there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? At the end of the day, the transaction is always going to come with Plim via clinic that is using Plim. Now, if a patient has a very particular clinic and they think, I need or want Plim and I want this clinic, then it becomes a case of the patient saying, well, can you work with Plim, and you set them up, and it's quite easy. But the way to think of it, I also think sometimes it's beyond finance, because finance think, oh, it's because I can't afford it. Sometimes it's also making the smart choices. I was thinking about this myself in December, and sometimes you think, lots of gifts, lots of trips, lots of this, It's not so much about affordability, sometimes it's about cash flow. And I'm thinking, if I can, Plim one, I pay 50% one now, and I pay 50% next month, why not? It makes my December a bit lighter. So it's not necessarily that I can't afford it, it's just, juggling of the holidays, the kids go back to school, there's a lot of expenses. Can we shift stuff? Because it's 0% interest at the end of the day, it supports this. Now, the way, if anyone is watching this today and doesn't have a practitioner or doesn't know anything about this, they can go on plim.co.uk and simulate what would be approved for them. So they'll go through there, create a simulation and say, oh, I might be pre-approved for a certain amount. Now what Plim does, and that's where I find out we do this responsibly, we'll check patients' affordability and their ability to go through it. So it's two stage. You may have really high income, meaning your credit score is super high, but you may be having 3 mortgages and a car and all of this. So it might mean you have a really high income, but the system will check, it's actually not the safest thing or the most responsible thing for us to grant you a buy now pay later solution. But what the patient can do, they can go on the website, they can check out how much could be borrowed could be lent to them, and then they can activate themselves, reaching out to a clinic going, oh, I'd like to have this BNPL. The other way is for them to be in a clinic, find a clinic on our website and go into that clinic and discuss what treatment would be more appropriate for them, and then ask to put it through Plim. What I always find is, from experience, is speak to your healthcare professional. I think we live in a world, we talk about AI all the time. You can ask, oh, here's my photo, what treatment should I get? I think that we have to respect the knowledge and the expertise of the experts who are going to treat us and not try to shortcut everything and do it by ourselves. I don't get on a plane and tell the pilot how to fly the plane. I don't come to a clinic and say, put 2 mil of filler because I saw a celebrity, a friend, a this, a that. I think there's just so many treatment options that are out there, right? And some will be trending because they have a good social media strategy or whatnot, but that doesn't mean that it is what's going to be suitable for you. Who knows what is suitable for you is a healthcare professional in front of you that is going to know, what, for you it's lasers, for you it's biostimulator, for you we don't do anything because you have an autoimmune disease, because that knowledge. And I think it's great that people are more educated than 10 years ago when it comes to treatments, but the education, with all due respect, we can do your research. I think a patient can still find through research something that the practitioner isn't aware of because there's just so much. But if people can, think, this is what I want, but I really need to have that conversation with the practitioner so that we know what is the best treatment for me. I think that's what I personally encourage. Both are there. People can go see the affordability, go through this, say, I'm going to generate a BNPL, we call them buy now, pay later, on the platform, send it to the clinic. That is a great route. But I would love for people to speak to clinicians and get the best treatment for them from that expertise.
Oh, absolutely. I can't agree with you more on all the points that you really brought up. So first of all, affordability. I'm the same. If I know I can take interest-free finance so that I don't pay any extra, why I wouldn't want to spread the cost of the treatment, rather just the paying the whole lump sum just feels more comfortable. And I think also you need to have some cushion for security, so you don't want to completely bring your bank account to zero by paying everything up front. So I think it's an excellent option, why not? But with regards to AI and putting your photograph in ChatGPT or Gemini and asking what treatment is good for me, it's interesting. We just have had a conversation with a psychotherapist previously, and we touch on aspect of self-perception and sometimes what we think reality is, it's not what it is because of how our mind works. And I think it's so important that you have a person who will be able honestly and ethically and with the experience of doing it hundreds or thousands times before to evaluate your face and advise what will be right for you. I don't think even as an expert practitioner myself, I should be relying just on my own opinion what I should have. It's nice to have other person who is an expert look at my face and say, actually, probably this is not the best treatment for you, or this will not give you the best result. And I don't think that AI is quite there yet to take medical aesthetic jobs or dental jobs, so we're very, very far away from it, I'm sure.
And I think there's still also that human element. If we go back to building that trust, I also think that how much of a relief is it to be able to speak to a healthcare professional that will tell you, what, don't have this treatment, or this treatment might work, face, body, teeth, it doesn't matter. Just having that security of someone who has that expertise, who lives in the real world. And the thing, even about the face, when you think about it, our face looks different at 8 a.m., at 3 p.m., at 8 p.m.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we also have to put that into perspective, that the treatment will give you this, the treatment will not give you that, and find the right balance for it.
Oh, 100%. Coming back to Plim again,
Yeah.
So what is the process for clinics? I know it's super easy, but would you please tell a little bit more of insight how clinic can set up and build their partnership with Plim, because I'm sure many healthcare professionals and private practices watching this podcast, so that will be useful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, as you say, it's quite easy. I find it, almost sometimes hard to explain, because I'm just thinking, you get on with the steps. There's going on the website, you can do most of it yourself, actually all of it yourself. But if you want, there's help, whether WhatsApp or a concierge team. And it goes through uploading some documents, because we want to verify that you're a healthcare professional. Some people reach out to us, with hair salon, this type of business, and we need a medical professional attached to the business, so that this is the industry we're in, aesthetic and wellness. It goes through verification steps, whether it's the banking through Stripe or the establishment of the business, and then it is set up. Really, I think on average it might take about 30 minutes to set it all up when everything syncs up, and it's quite easy. The additional benefit is when you're part of the Plim partner clinics, you also appear in our searches. So I was talking about the patients, they can go on the website, they can say, oh, I'm approved for £4,000, this is the type of treatment that I would like to get. Then the clinics who are on Plim are going to appear, say, oh, that's a clinic near me, and they get also new patients coming in through Plim for that. But as I say, I find that following the steps online is quite straightforward. If not, Monday through Friday, call our team and they guide you through this on the phone.
Amazing. And what really resonates with me that you only work with healthcare professionals.
Absolutely.
So all the clinics that you will see on Plim, it's actually led by a medical person.
100%.
And they do offer ethical regulated treatment, which I think very important these days.
Yeah, it's true.
So in medical aesthetic and medical professional, we always talk about ethic. And sometimes when we're talking about finance, there is a question raised about ethic. So could you please explain a little bit more where is ethics of responsible finance sits within Plim?
Absolutely. I think when we think about finance or personal finance, there's probably the horror stories of people, who have so many finance plans everywhere and can't afford them. But this is not what Plim is. What I'm thinking personally is that Plim is more responsible than a credit card, because when a patient leaves and pays with their credit card their treatment today, as practitioners, you don't know what happens. They may, repay over several months, have really high interest rate and pay, sometimes even more than the treatment to begin with. When the treatment plan is put through Plim, 0% interest, and ahead of that there's affordability and the ability to repay that is checked by Plim. So once a patient is approved to pay through Plim, there's more safety associated with it. Yes, there's a check, and the system is a very advanced technological system, check that this person can actually afford this. It's just a choice to then now split it over several months. So I find that we don't think about it when people pay with a credit card, but when we start thinking about it from a different point of view, we realize putting through Plim is a very responsible way of supporting treatment plans.
I also, from our experience and our patient experience, I would add, I think Plim is very transparent.
Yes.
So it's
very much.
very transparent. Well, thank you very much. It has been such good, insightful conversation, and also unusual, because when we really have a finance company coming on the podcast,
Not often.
so that is really I think good episode. I hope, guys, you find a lot of useful information. And JP, can you please summarize for clinics mainly? 3 main why they should implement Plim into their already existing clinics and systems.
I think Plim helps really with supporting holistic treatment plans, being able to look at the patient completely. That in itself helps with loyalty, because the patient will come back, not because you gave them a discount or use some loyalty tricks, because you really delivered on the results. And I think if I have to compare Plim to maybe other financing options that are out there, we specialize in aesthetic and wellness, so we understand what happens in a clinic, which other provider might not.
So I think it's absolutely down to the point. So that is a specialized system for aesthetic practices that helps you to build holistic treatment plans for your long-term patient loyalty.
Thank you.
Thank you.